is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Live from London, this is The World Today.
Hello, I'm Robin Dwyer. Welcome to the programme. Our top stories. Russia tells troops to step up activity, all areas of Ukraine. Kyiv says an attack on Sloviansk is imminent. A plane carrying weapons crashes in Greece, killing its crew. People living nearby are warned to stay indoors. And 2 days after their first TV debates, the 5 remaining candidates for UK Prime Minister go head-to-head again. The race to become Conservative leader now getting personal. Ukraine says Russia is planning a new military offensive across the country with a possible attack on the eastern city of Sloviansk. It comes after Moscow told its forces to step up activity in all operational areas with a priority on eastern Ukraine. More civilians have died from Russian shelling in the region. Associated Press correspondent John Gambrell is in Lviv for us. John, there are reports both from Ukraine's military and British intelligence that Russia's planning a new offensive. What do those reports say?
They say that the Russians are increasingly starting to focus again on Sloviansk. This is a city in eastern Ukraine in the Donetsk region that the Russians really have wanted to take for some time now. This city, if the Russians were able to move on it, would allow the Russians to then continue south. If you can remember, the front line in eastern Ukraine kind of looks like a hook. If they take Sloviansk and then they move down to the city of Kramatorsk, which is directly south of there on a major highway, they could be able to cut off all the Ukrainian forces and to kind of trap them in a bulge between those two front lines. Now, I have to say that that hasn't happened yet because the Ukrainians have put up a pretty stiff resistance. This is a really distant, long-range artillery battle that's going on right now, and it continues. It's grinding warfare between the Ukrainians and the Russians that goes on even right now.
And 3 more people have been reported killed after a week of massive civilian casualties in eastern Ukraine.
We've seen new strikes that have hit Kharkiv, the Kharkiv region, which is in northeast Ukraine. The region that these strikes came in was very close to the Russian border. Meanwhile, we've continued to see sort of an escalation from the Russians as they've come off what they described as an operational pause. Have to keep in mind that it's been over 140 days of war so far, and the Russians have wanted to rearm their troops as well as bring more troops in. This has been a very bloody fight for them. This also seen a new focus on hitting targets that even on the eastern front line. This last couple of days, we saw this cruise missile attack on the city of Vinnytsia, which killed at least 24 people and wounded over 100. The Ukrainians say that's because the Russians are growing increasingly frustrated with their ability to strike behind Russian front lines with these American-made HIMARS missile systems.
So what does this new offensive by Russia tell us about how tactics are changing on the ground?
As I mentioned, the Ukrainians say that the Russians are getting increasingly upset with these HIMARS missile strikes. These HIMARS are these missiles that are on the back of trucks. The Ukrainians have 8 so far. There are 4 more supposedly on the way. And what these systems allow the Ukrainians to do is to drive up to a location and then quickly fire off these very precise missiles at targets up to 80 kilometers away. Those targets have included Russian command posts as well as ammunition dumps and logistical points. Russia hasn't really discussed the HIMARS in depth, but they do seem to be increasingly upset by them. We've seen the Russian defense minister in the last couple of days say that they want to step up their own attacks across all of Ukraine. That's raised warnings across many areas, including in western Lviv, where I am, that people are increasingly worried every time that they hear these air raid sirens. And the Ukrainians continuing these HIMARS strikes. Now, Russian media in the last couple of days, according to analysts, have come out and said that the Ukrainians have either killed or wounded at least 4 senior commanders in the 106th Airborne Unit, showing just how successful these Ukrainian strikes have been. Robin?
John, thanks very much. That's John Gambrell from the Associated Press in Lviv. China says it will continue to push for peace talks to resolve the war in Ukraine. In a phone call with his Hungarian counterpart, Foreign Minister Wang Yi said all sides should strive for balanced security in Europe. Hungary's foreign minister said the country faced economic challenges due to the war and welcomed more Chinese investment. A cargo plane carrying 11 tons of weapons has crashed in northern Greece, killing all 8 people on board. The plane was operated by a Ukrainian cargo airline. It was transporting weapons, including landmines, from Serbia to Bangladesh. People living near the crash site have been told to stay indoors and keep their windows shut. Well, our correspondent Evangelo Sipsas is in Athens. So, Evangelo, what more do we know about what's happened?
So far, what we know is that the Ukrainian cargo plane carrying munitions from Serbia to Bangladesh crashed 40 kilometers near the city of Kavala in northern Greece on Saturday, killing all members on board. The plane was operated by Ukrainian cargo carrier Meridian, and from the first moments of the incident, the Ukrainian council in Thessaloniki arrived on the spot and told officials that all members on board were Ukrainian citizens. Now, according to witnesses in the area, they saw the plane in a fireball before exploding on impact in the corn fields on Saturday at around midnight local time. There were reports that the pilot did report an issue with the engine and requested an emergency landing. From the first moments, though, of reports that there was a plane crash, a Ukrainian cargo plane with munitions, reports were saying that it was bound for Ukraine. That's why the general director of the cargo carrier came out quick to say that this has nothing to do with the war in Ukraine and backed Serbia's account of events. The plane took off at around 1840 GMT on Saturday from the southern Serbian city of Nice. It was expected to go to Jordan to refuel and then end up in Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh.
And what more can you tell us about the plane itself?
Well, the plane was an Antonov AN-12 military cargo plane. It was an up on the previous Antonov AN-10. It's a Soviet-era design, and it was mostly used for transporting troops and standard medium-range military cargo. Now, what was in the plane, we don't have much information, but from reports from both sides, Greece and Serbia, it was carrying 60 and 82mm mortar training rounds, as well as 82mm elimination rounds. But that's not what Greek authorities are worrying about. Since the beginning of the investigation, there were a white substance that was detected. That's why a special unit from the Army that looks for nuclear, biological, and chemical substances was deployed from Athens to see if any hazardous chemicals were released in the environment. Now, there are no reports of anything yet since the investigation is still ongoing, but the Hellenic Police Service says that no radioactive elements have been detected. A pressure is expected in the next few hours, but until then, local authorities with fire services have banned any traveling in and around the area at a radius of about 400 to 500 meters and are encouraging people to stay indoors, shut their windows, shut their doors, and wait for further announcement from the Civil Protection Ministry.
Evangelo, thanks very much. Our correspondent Evangelo Sipsas in Athens. The 5 remaining candidates to become the Conservative Party leader and UK Prime Minister are preparing for a second televised debate. There's been a round of media activity, supporters of some candidates launching strong attacks, while some of the contenders have been keen to distance themselves from Boris Johnson, who announced his resignation as Prime Minister after a series of scandals. Well, our correspondent Andrew Wilson's following the story. So, Andrew, the Tory leadership competition is now down to 5 competitors. Another debate tonight. Is it getting personal now?
It's getting personal, and it's getting really intense as well, I have to say. This is the stage where things do get more competitive. You've got only 5 candidates now, all going into this televised debate, the second of the competition. All eyes on the performances, because judgments were made from the performances last time round. Rishi Sunak held his ground. Penny Mordaunt slipped back some of hers. Tom Tugendhat is thought to have done really well. But it's turning into a race where it's almost accepted now that Rishi Sunak is one of the 2 that will eventually go through to be decided by the party membership. He's got strong support amongst the parliamentary party. He's survived well talking on the economy in the previous debate, even though the attacks have really been intensifying on him from those that still feel that he Boris Johnson's leadership and that he is a traitor to the party. He's been called on different occasions, particularly on social media, a rat, a snake, hissy rishi. He's been called a backstabber. He's been called the sly assassin. One senior Tory said that he is responsible for slowly letting the air come out of the balloon of Boris Johnson's leadership, because implying that he wants to take over. However, he does also have significant and senior party support, but that leaves one other candidate to come up against him, and that could be difficult because they all seem to be on level pegging at the moment. Penny Mordaunt, Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary, also Kemi Badenoch as well, has put in a good showing. They're all on the right of the party, and the candidates there, the supporters there, are fighting it out to see which one of those they can push up forwards to support to come up against Rishi Sunak. So it will be difficult. Now, the language is getting very intense. The criticisms are getting very intense, not just on Rishi Sunak, but others. And the party itself is starting to buckle under some of the turmoil. Boris Johnson has had little to say in the procedure, but Cobra have met twice now to discuss the heat wave that's coming through the UK tomorrow, and yet there's been no mention of climate change. Alex Sharma, who was the chair of the Tory party leadership of the COP26 in November last year, has threatened to resign because that hasn't come up. So the pressure is bearing not only on the candidates but also on other members of the parliamentary party as this goes on.
So how do you see this leadership contest playing out in the coming days?
Well, the structure is very straightforward. After the debate tonight, there'll be a lot of open discussion in the media and amongst the parliamentary party as well about how the five candidates did and if any of them managed to push themselves forward in a spectacular way. These debates do count for a lot. Liz Truss had a very poor performance in the last one. She's got to do well in this one to keep the momentum going for her campaign, for example. And then there is the vote on Monday to whittle the 5 down to 4, on Tuesday to whittle the 4 down to 3, and then on Wednesday to whittle the 3 down to 2. Now, that's the timetable. That can be accelerated by one or any of the candidates deciding to pull out. But what's really going on now is the horse trading behind the scenes. Who is persuading who to switch camps, and who is persuading who to switch camps if their candidate puts in a bad showing either in the debate tonight or in the first vote on Monday. So that's the horse trading that's going on in the background to try and make sure that the right of the party particularly have the person they want to go to the Conservative membership on Wednesday alongside Rishi Sunak, because that's the true battle through the summer.
Andrew Wilson, thanks very much. There have been more evacuations as wildfires continue to spread in southern Europe. France, Spain, Portugal and Greece are the countries worst affected as an extreme heat wave sweeps across the continent. Temperatures of 45 degrees have been recorded in some areas. New record highs are being predicted in the coming days for Spain and Portugal. The heat wave is expected to peak on Tuesday or Wednesday. 6 people have died and 12 are missing after torrential rain caused flash floods in Sichuan in southwest China. More than 20,000 people have been affected. The flooding has caused widespread damage to roads, infrastructure, power and communications. A British man has been found dead at a hotel in Florence, along with a seriously injured woman who's thought to be his partner. Italian police and forensic teams are investigating the incident. Italian media have named the man as former rugby league player Ricky Bybee. Several people have been injured in a car bomb attack on a hotel in the Somali town of Johar, north of the capital Mogadishu. At least 4 local politicians were among the injured. The Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab says it carried out the attack. Still ahead here on CGTN. 3 of the missing text messages. The investigation into the storming of the US Capitol turns its attention to the Secret Service.
There's a new agenda for a new world, accelerating change in almost every part of our lives. It's shifting the norms of how we work, travel, and connect. How we think, interact, and develop. It's a new reality, a new agenda with me, Juliet Mann.
Ever wondered what's the difference between a bear and the bull market? Where are the cash cows? And who are the lame ducks? And what exactly are black swans? Grey rhinos and unicorn companies. Make sense of it all with global business, only on CGTN.
Welcome back. A reminder of our headlines. Russia tells troops to step up activity in all areas of Ukraine. Kyiv says an attack on Sloviansk is imminent. Plane carrying weapons crashes in Greece, killing its crew. People living nearby are warned to stay indoors. And 2 days after their first TV debate, the 5 remaining candidates for UK Prime Minister go head-to-head again. The race to become Conservative leader now getting personal. The investigation into last year's US Capitol riots has called for text messages to be handed over by the Secret Service. The agency, which manages security for the president and other top officials, has given conflicting accounts of why a number of internal messages from the time of the attack were deleted. Our correspondent Benji Haya reports.
This is a rare yet significant move by the committee. It's one thing interviewing members of Donald Trump's inner circle, but a subpoena to an executive branch department shows the role the Secret Service played the day of the riot is coming under increased scrutiny. At the heart of it lies what Committee Chair Benny Thompson calls the Secret Service's extraordinarily troubling destruction of records, in reference to the Department of Homeland Security finding that the agency deleted numerous text messages sent from its devices. He's asked for the production of the documents by Tuesday. The Secret Service insists proper procedures were followed. The lost evidence could shed further light on Donald Trump's actions during the insurrection. He openly encouraged his supporters attending a rally on January 6th to march to the Capitol as part of his purported efforts to prevent the transfer of power to Joe Biden, having falsely claimed that he'd beaten his Democrat rival. In testimony last month, former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson told the committee that as the then president left the rally, he engaged in a heated exchange with Secret Service agents. At one point, she alleges, in an attempt to join his followers at the Capitol, Mr. Trump tried to grab the steering wheel of his vehicle to stop his security entourage driving him back to the West Wing. As more details emerge, the next hearing, the 8th, will take place on Thursday. It will be the first held in prime time since the opening session, which was viewed by 20 million people. But the committee faces an uphill task convincing millions of others who still believe that Donald Trump had the election stolen from him. Benji Haya, CGTN, Washington, D.C.
Over the past 2 weeks, Spain has seen another rise in COVID infections. This latest spike is being blamed on a new subvariant of Omicron that has become dominant in many countries across the world. Our correspondent Rahul Pathak reports from Madrid.
In Spain, it's been called the silent wave. Unlike Omicron, these new variants have not received the same media attention. They are called BA4 and BA5, and although they haven't caused more severe illness, they have pushed up the number of hospitalizations across the country. It's believed they are the most transmissible variants to date. Mask use is still compulsory on public transport here. The Ministry of Health has been concerned to recommend that people start wearing them again for indoor use. That is not an easy task during these summer months. The country has suffered a couple of extreme heat waves and prolonged COVID fatigue, but the health services are in full support.
Es una variante que ha sido como otras variantes muy contagiosa.
It is very infectious. There have been lots of infections due to close contact at work and at home between family members. Some have required a visit to the doctor. It's clear to see because we're receiving way more emergency calls on COVID.
Now, there's no indication that the new variant is any more dangerous than Omicron, although getting accurate numbers is becoming more difficult. Spain now only collects information from the over 60s as it's wound down its exhaustive data collection from earlier in the year. The two subvariants that were first detected in South Africa back in February have now become dominant in many countries throughout the world. The United States has reported that BA5 has an extremely high infection rate because its mutation allows it to escape antibodies generated by current vaccines or previous infection.
Us health workers believe and hope that we can learn to live with COVID the same way as we coexist with flu or gastroenteritis. There's no other choice, and I think both people and health workers will manage it fine.
Comparisons with the prevalence of previous variants is extremely difficult. Restrictions have been lifted in many countries and attitudes have changed. Staying ahead of a constantly mutating virus has always been the toughest challenge. And once again, it seems the latest variant has the upper hand. Rahul Pathak, CGTN, Madrid.
Public entertainment of all kinds was put on hold during the pandemic, but in Cuba, ballet is now making a comeback. The national company is bringing its well-known classic Don Quixote back to the stage. CGTN correspondent Luis Chirino reports.
Ballet enthusiasts flocked to Havana's National Theatre for this staging of Don Quixote, interpreting passages of the 17th century novel by Spanish writer Miguel de Cervantes. This is the Cuban version of Don Quixote, as choreographed by prima ballerina absoluta Alicia Alonso, who first staged the classical piece in 1988. Alonso founded and led the Cuban ballet company from 1948 until she died in 2019. In making the Cuban version, Alonso followed folkloric references while elevating respect for the title character, a symbol of Hispanic culture. CGTN attended rehearsals at the ballet company headquarters where masters, ballerinas, and other dancers were hard at work. Master Consuelo Dominguez said staging Don Quixote is always a tribute to Alicia Alonso, who gave a Cuban touch to the classical ballet piece.
The way we Cubans dance, it shows how we play with a pas de deux between a woman and a man and the interaction among strong characters in classical ballet.
Dominguez said it's now up to young Cuban dancers and ballerinas to keep the Cuban ballet repertoire alive.
It's a challenge and a pleasure to perform this ballet as principal dancer for the first time, so I hope to communicate to the public the desired message.
I hope to make a good performance and keep the legacy of that great ballerina.
The performance reflects the long hours of rehearsal needed to display the technical prowess and unique flair the Cuban Ballet School is known for, all created by Alicia Alonso.
The return of Don Quixote to the stage after a prolonged absence due to the COVID-19 pandemic allows Cubans to once again enjoy the finest ballet pieces and reactivate their cultural life.
Pieces like Don Quixote, Giselle, Swan Lake, and many others have been staged by the Cuban company in countries all over the world, all part of Alicia Alonso's legacy, left to a new generation of dancers. Luis Chirino, CGTN, Havana.
In South Africa, you can now take swimming to a different level. Mermaiding, as it's known, is the practice of putting on a costume mermaid tail and swimming in it. And a new school teaching how to mermaid has opened in Johannesburg, ahead of the World Mermaid Championships, which next year will be held in China. CGTN's Julie Shire reports.
Mermaids are mystical creatures that have fascinated humans throughout history. But at Mer's School in South Africa, students can transform into the magical character by slipping into brightly colored fabric tails and monofins.
I've always wanted to be a mermaid, so when I actually saw that there's a Mer school where you can learn to do mermaiding, I immediately applied. When you are in the water, you can actually breathe at a slower pace and just be calm. And that's what I really love.
It's kind of like slipping on an alter ego. It's like you kind of change into someone else for a little while. It's really cool. You feel really elegant when you're doing it. At the same time, it is kind of hard work. You feel like you're literally moving like a fish.
Mermaiding uses synchronized swimming techniques. It took off in South Africa during the COVID-19 lockdown. While it looks magical and beautiful, it takes a lot of strength.
The first day you put on the tail, people feel very awkward in the water, and as time goes on, they get used to the tail, and you get more water fit. It is a whole body workout. It's a lot of core, making that undulation with your spine. You've got to get your whole body to move. If you're just moving your legs, then you don't look like a mermaid. It must look authentic. It must look like you belong in the water.
The swimming phenomenon is growing globally as a competitive sport. South Africa is also getting in on the action.
So the national competition is in October, on the 9th of October, and then we're hoping to send the winner of that competition to the 2023 World Championship in China. The competition involves 10 moves that you perform to a song and put together in a sequence, and I absolutely think that I'm ready to compete and maybe even win.
Mermaids in South Africa and across the world are hoping that someday their sport will make a splash on the Olympic stage. Julie Shara, CGTN, South Africa.
Finally, fried food is almost as big a part of the German beer hall experience as the beer itself. But cooking oil is running low, rationed due to shortages caused by the war in Ukraine. Now, one Munich brewery thinks it has a solution, allowing customers to pay for their pints with a bottle of vegetable oil. The manager says without it, they may not be able to fry traditional schnitzels. Customers are giving the idea 3 cheers, as a litre of oil costs less than a litre of beer. The headlines again. Russia tells troops to step up activity in all areas of Ukraine. Kyiv says an attack on Sloviansk is imminent. A plane carrying weapons crashes in Greece, killing its crew. People living nearby are warned to stay indoors. And 2 days after their first TV debate, the 5 remaining candidates for UK Prime Minister go head-to-head again, with the race to become Conservative leader now getting personal. And that is the world today. Thanks for watching. We're on smart TV apps, Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, Android TV, YouTube, Dailymotion, CGTN.com and the CGTN app. And in the UK, 24 hours a day on Freeview. There's more news at the top of the hour. Coming up next, it's Razor. For now, from all of the team here in London, goodbye.